Hello all, Sam Dickinson from the Model Train People. Due to a couple of scheduling conflicts that we had come the end of the season, we have had to cut the season short, shall we say, for the end of 2025. The episode that you're actually about to hear was a original recording of the interview with Miles Callan that you heard earlier in the season. This conversation got really derailed and distracted because I'm autistic and I get distracted easily. But with his permission, we are going to be using it as a little bit of a filler episode to round out the end of 2025. I'm still working on picking an official start date for the podcast come January. So for the rest of November and all of December, you won't be hearing anything at all. So with that being said, I hope you all have a very happy Thanksgiving, Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, I think Kwanzaa, and also Happy New Year. And we will see you in 2026. Thank you for listening, and I hope you all enjoy.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well,
so I thought I'd wear my green hat shirt today. So
Hey, I'm wearing, I don't know if you can see, New York Central and Hudson River Railroad on this because it's my Hyde Park Station shirt from Hyde Park Station in here in the Hudson Valley, New York. It's where I just was before I was running a little late. I was coming down from Hyde Park.
how was the club? What'd you end up doing?
It's good. We recorded a quick video for we're holding our annual T-Track competition coming up here. We're selling modules to people, and it's not like super strict. It's basically as long as the tracks are in the right place and clear enough to run trains, you can do whatever you want. So it was a lot of fun when we did it last year. So we recorded our video for that to get it up, and then we had a photo shoot. Member just recently restored a classic, wooden baggage cart, with the big wooden spoked wheels.
Oh, cool.
It's beautiful. But we had a picture that was up on the wall for a long time of some of the founding members of the Hudson Valley Railroad Society with that baggage cart in front of the Hyde Park Station.
Ooh.
And now that it's restored, and that picture was taken 50 years ago, so now that it's restored, we took a picture with some of our current members, kind of recreating it. So it was really awesome.
Hopefully, it'd be really funny to track down like the exact same frame. And put it just below them.
We got pretty close on the angle.
Oh, that's excellent.
Nice. Hello all, and welcome to the Model Train People podcast. Bit of a cold open here, as usual. Always love to have our general discussions intermingled in with how we do this podcast. So yeah, episode 2. I'd say that I'm starting to get the hang of this. It took me about 3 tries to finally save the recording of the previous episode, but I think we got it there now.
Classic podcast.
Yep, I'm making some audio adjustments as well, so hopefully I'm a little bit louder this time, and hopefully
I think
the music was a little bit louder so that it could actually be heard. I think I need to make some modifications there as well, but
and I think I actually have the right mic and don't sound like garbage this time.
you do sound a lot better, so
We can all hope, right?
right. So but anyway, this is going to be my first guest interview.
Wow.
I've been on the podcast as a co-host during other interviews, but you are my first interviewee. So Because I unfortunately keep forgetting your last name, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yes.
My name is Miles, last name redacted.
But
I'm Miles Callan.
Callan.
I'm better known on the internet as Interurban Era, which is my
Mhm.
YouTube channel and all of the public-facing
Yes. Miles
media.
Callan. All right, I gotta write that down just so I have it for my notes.
But yeah, so we figured we'd bring you on because you've got quite an interesting group of stories to tell as
Mhm.
your time in the hobby here, and between what you do for your own modeling and the fact that you kind of work in the industry in a way.
Hmm.
So lots of fun stuff to talk about. So I don't know, Sam, where do you want to start?
Yeah,
Well,
let's jump in.
yeah. How about Miles? How about you tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got into the hobby?
Sure. Very simple. I lived next to a Santa Fe main line growing up, and that filled my imagination with dreams of second generation diesels. Um, and basically, I used to be a member of a now defunct train club that was above a motorcycle shop in Southern California.
Hmm.
And at age 3, I was a member of the train club and I was their mascot. It was absolutely adorable. My dad collaborated with the guys downstairs in the motorcycle shop, and I explored the layout. And some of my earliest memories are like getting electrically shocked underneath the layout, um, and moving vehicles around the layout, and learning how to run a train,
Hmm.
and many other fun things. So that kind of kindled my interest. And then the guys from the club gave me one of those funky 1970s like layout in a coffee table. Um, and it was an N scale layout. And so picture a 3-year-old or a 4-year-old at this time playing with like 1970s or 80s era N scale.
I can
Like
picture
it's
it.
the
I was
wrong.
I was kind of similar a
Mhm.
few years later, but yeah, I'm similar.
Yeah. So it was quite an adventure because I knew it was a fragile piece of equipment, all of the rolling stock and all of that, but also, your inner exuberance as a kid
Hmm.
comes up against that, right? And you want to
Right.
play.
Yep.
Yep.
Um, and so I actually kept that for many years as it slowly fell apart, but that kind of cemented my interest. A couple of years later, I was given the classic Target train set, which had a Bachmann F9 and like, two freight cars and a caboose.
Right.
Um, and that kind of launched my interest into HO. And I joined a club in the Outer Bay Area when I was probably maybe 7 or 8. And it had some of the most spectacular scenery I'd ever seen, and some really nice members too at the time. And so that also continued to kindle my interest. And fast forward to in my teens, where I pivoted into business side of things. I was a member at a different club in my teens, and one guy walked in the door and saw my custom weathered freight cars that I was experimenting with at the time. And he's like, "Can I hire you to do some of my cars?" And he turned out to be not only my largest client in history, he just kept giving back like entire A-line boxes worth of cars every 2 weeks for
Wow.
years. Um, and it turned out like in the end, I'd weathered nearly 100 locomotives and over, God, like hundreds of freight cars. And it was great because it was very steady income and I was, paid fairly well for it. And it kind of launched me into like, okay, well, I've got my first client. What happens if I look for another client? And so, like, throughout my late teens and early 20s, I did a lot of custom rolling stock. I became very much known for hand painted custom graffiti, which I'd love people to commission me to do again. That was really fun. But it was like the zenith of people getting really excited about custom graffiti at the time in the like 2007, 8 range.
Hmm.
Um,
Mhm.
and then I took a break. I kind of burned out because I was young and not good at managing a business and probably underselling and undervaluing my labor. Um, and I just burnt out on it. So I went off to Italy to do some industrial design stuff. Went to college to do some further industrial design studies. got involved in a ridiculous startup and left that after a couple of years after it didn't pan out. And then I had enough business acumen. It's like, well, you know what? Why don't I return to my passion? And so, out of the blue, one of my friends calls me and it's like, this guy in just south of San Francisco wants a layout built in his garage. And so I go out on site, with some trepidation, like, you never know what you're going to encounter. Um, and it's a two-car garage, but it's an old 40s. They were known as Dolger homes. They're built by this guy named Dolger, and they're all these like split level type 40s homes, but they're kind of semi row houses. And the garage, instead of being a two-car where they're side by side, it's two cars deep. So it's a 12 by or 14 by 42 foot space.
Interesting.
And it was filled with a sea of debris, like a whole lifetime's worth of boxes. And I just said to the guy, it's like, I will build this layout for you if you clean out this garage. And 3 weeks later, I can't believe it. He called me. It's like, I cleaned out the garage. And you said yes. And I was just like, what? And so began a layout, which I have I think 3 or 4 parts of on the YouTube channel chronicling the building of that layout. That layout is still on hiatus right now. He hired exactly the wrong person to redo his kitchen, and it turned into a huge legal debacle. And so that's been on hold for a while, but I'll be back to doing that layout soon. But once people saw that on the line, other people started coming out of the woodwork, and so far I've built 4 layouts, and I'm currently working on 3 of the 4 layouts right now, which is really fun.
Nice.
Awesome.
Yeah, I think we have a member in the community that was talking about kitchen problems in a house renovation recently, so they probably can relate to that.
Oh yeah. It's never ending, especially because the main goal of the guy who was renovating the kitchen was to empty my client's bank account most efficiently instead of actually do a good job. So
Yeah. Now I'm trying to recall because I feel like I missed over something. Did this happen while you were still in Italy?
no, this is years later.
Okay, so you moved back to the States.
Yeah, I just spent a year over there in like the mid-20s.
All right. Did you do anything with model trains at all while you were over there, or real trains, or was it literally just a full-on fasting for a year?
So this is kind of a weird story. So when I went to industrial design, an apprenticeship over there at a firm called Ital Design Giugiaro, which is famous for like the original Mark I Golf, the DeLorean DMC-12, a long laundry list of things, and train-wise, the Freccia Rosa, exterior and interior design.
Okay.
And I was in the office just doing normal stuff like, designing appliances or something. And this thing comes across my desk, and I'm like, what is this? And it's this weird 6-axle locomotive. And I'm just like, okay, what I want to know more about this. And so one of the gals in the office was designing a paint scheme for it. And I was like, okay, can I collaborate? Can I throw a few ideas out there alongside whichever concepts you're going for? She's like, absolutely. So spent a couple days in Illustrator designing what became, of all the weird things in the world, a compressed natural gas demonstrator unit for the Russian state railways.
Oh, wow.
You can look it up. It's I have no idea how to pronounce the Cyrillic letters, but if you type it in English, it's the TEM 19-001.
TEM 19-001. You're going to have to send me a photo link of this because I can't really click off of anything for fear that it'll mess something up.
That is a bizarre beast.
It is. It's for the viewers who are just listening to this vocally, it's basically, imagine in your mind's eye a high hood SD9, but where the prime mover is a giant CNG fuel tank.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
It's absurd. And it's just like a real life 1-to-1 scale kit bash, which is kind of cool.
Wow.
So I sent off the design along with all of the others, and they picked mine, and I was over the moon.
Congrats.
And
that's awesome.
It debuted at I forget what it's called, like the Rail Expo Fair in 2014,
Hmm.
um, where I think most of Europe and Russia does like a Rail Expo thing
Okay.
every year. And so I didn't get to see it in person, but I got to see amazing photographs of it.
Mm-hmm.
And then slowly over time, other things started trickling forward. I saw that somebody had created a museum-sized G-scale model of it for display in one of the Russian museums.
Oh wow.
Um, I saw there's a killer like infographic 3D animation thing about from the Bryansk Locomotive Works covering the CNG technology, which is like
Mm-hmm.
very polished, very kind of neat. But
Right.
it's so funny that like they're joking in the office, like, oh my God, an American designing a paint scheme for a Russian locomotive? It's like it was great.
Oh yeah.
Um,
Unfortunately for me, designing paint schemes is kind of hit and miss for me. Like I
mhm,
could make some really really good paint schemes that people really really like, and then for others it's like I will come up with 20 paint schemes and not be satisfied with any of them. And
mhm,
unfortunately, my Mississippi Pacific concept is one of those. I
Mhm.
literally went through 20 paint schemes, including two that were ripped off of Southern Pacific, including one of
yeah,
their proposed paint schemes, which I nicknamed the Goldenrod scheme. But yeah,
because
I
yeah,
just, yeah.
you can absolutely be your own worst client.
Oh, yeah,
Like with
Oh
my
yeah.
for sure.
with the Alta California, my prototype freelance railroad that I've been working on since about 2015. Um, Years of development. I'm not even exaggerating. Like we
Mm-hmm.
started in 2015, we had early ideas, some of which actually stayed to the end result. Others are long gone and filed away for use for other prototype freelance stuff. And others are just failed concepts. But it took years to get from zero to finished. So I think a lot of people feel kind of impatient about like I need to get to a solution.
Right.
And a lot of people fall into some really horrible traps that end up making your paint schemes awkward or very unattractive to your eye, or you kind of sold yourself down the river of like it's too simple because I want it to
Mhm.
be easy to paint because it's a
Mm-hmm.
model.
Mhm.
Um, like the one thing I wish I could take out of the universe for modelers is do not remove the cab from your locomotive, paint it a different color from the body, and then snap the cab back on it and tell me it's
Tell you it's what?
a cohesive paint scheme.
Uh,
You see that a lot with a lot of novice people who repaint locomotives, where
mm-hmm.
like the body of the locomotive may be gray and then the cab is yellow, but the battery boxes aren't yellow. Um,
Mhm.
you
Well,
Actually,
know,
I
if you're gonna paint
have,
the cab, you gotta paint all the
yeah,
peripheries of
yeah.
it as well.
I
Otherwise,
actually
it's just
have,
it's
yeah, I
not right.
actually have a perfect
yeah,
example of that right here. Except this one came from the factory. So,
Oh jeez.
I model
Oh,
and
I know.
I model an alternate history Grand Trunk Western that merged the Milwaukee Road, and I've got plans on this locomotive thanks to how it came from the factory.
oh yeah,
So,
we talked about this last week
yeah,
with the
Yeah,
battery
and
box issue.
yeah,
Yeah,
we
during
had our
our yeah
pre-show
during
chat.
but no, we didn't
Mhm.
record that, so this is for
ah,
posterity's sake. So this is my Grand Trunk Western GP60M, and it has the full-on nose and everything. It
mhm.
has white handrails. Now, this locomotive, it's an Atlas GP. Oh, cat!
Oh
Oh, good
jeez.
grief! My cat was. I need to get her a scratching post or something, cause like for rubbing up against, because she was just rubbing up against the window ledge, and she finally fell off and landed on top of my workbench.
So it's a
Thankfully, other
GP40
stuff
cat.
cushioned everything.
It has a
The cat is a
Caterpillar engine.
GP40. Yep.
But anyway, so this is the GP40. And
Mhm.
Grand Trunk was known for painting the whole nose and the entire front of the cab Morncy orange.
Yes.
Now, and then from the front of the cab, or from the front of the cab all the way back was Burdakin blue, and then you had a Morncy orange on the back end. Now, for this locomotive, for whatever reason, they painted all the handrails black and they painted the battery box up on the front of the noses blue as well.
Mm-hmm.
So it looks really, really off compared to normal Grand Trunk Western locomotives. But I have a plan for it. I managed to pick up some white boxcar decals for the Milwaukee Road. And since I model the Grand Trunk Western purchasing the Milwaukee Road, basically the Milwaukee decided, hey, why don't we paint up a locomotive in Grand Trunk Western colors to represent our new ownership. But they messed up on the paint job and painted, because they are accustomed to painting black handrails, they kept the handrails black and they painted the battery boxes blue. Which is very but it still would have a white Milwaukee Road on the side.
So this reminds me a lot of a huge quandary that's happened for a long time. If you're familiar with SP&S, the Spokane, Portland, and Seattle.
Yep.
Until like last year or the last 5 years, you couldn't get an accurately painted version. Because everybody had these old faded Kodachromes. They insisted that it was painted in XYZ color. And what it actually is dark Northern Pacific green and that NP kind of ochre yellow. And that's somebody finally found the DuPont color cards for the SP&S stuff, and like the new Bowser stuff and the new Atlas and Athearn stuff is all correct now. But like for the longest time, it was that same problem where they were just not paying attention enough to the actual original source material. And so you get like things painted incorrectly, battery boxes wrong, hoods being strange colors, pinstripes being in the wrong place, that kind of thing.
Did they ever get the white and blue scheme correct?
Oh, that one-off special scheme?
The one that looked almost exactly the same to the last scheme of the Tennessee Central?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think Bowser is coming out with that in the RS3, if I'm not mistaken.
I see a pre-order list for it now, or maybe it's not. Maybe it's not.
I'm gonna have to.
I don't know.
I'm gonna have to look at those again.
The other terrifying rabbit hole is, what is SP Gray in the Scarlet paint scheme? You know what it is? It's a nightmare. Yeah. It's an absolute nightmare.
Yeah, I've got one of those. This is one of those Reader's Digest box engines. I actually
the N-scale world.
I actually used it. If you can see, if it will focus, I actually cut a piece off of the nose to make a triangular number board for my Bachmann 484 that I'm trying to turn into a Grand Trunk Western 6325, because we don't have any Grand Trunk Western or Canadian National 484s in N-scale yet.
I mean, you basically don't have any steam locomotives in N-scale, period.
There are 7 steam locomotives in N-scale.
Yes,
but they're all southern. But they're all Union.
Locomotive in N-scale is derivative of those.
So, so 33% of them are all the Union Pacifics, the 844, the big boys, and the Challengers.
It's so frustrating.
A third of them are USRA locomotives. And then the remaining third is a random mix of the Santa Fe 484s, the Southern Pacific 484s, and a couple other one-off locomotives.
Just like iconic locomotives.
Yeah,
like Burks and like Hudsons.
Yeah, the Burks, the Burks. Thank you. Which I'm surprised I didn't remember, because I've got one sitting right here.
Right, and then if you're lucky and you're old enough, you remember like the decent model power like Mogul and 440, but you can't get them anymore. So
no, I've seen them a couple of places.
But you can't buy them new anymore, I don't think, right?
No.
Yeah, and it's like
not new. It's new old stock or used.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's one of the things.
Please give me New Haven steam in N-scale.
Yeah.
It depresses me so much because like N in Europe has a very healthy amount of steam, and they solve the drivetrain problem. Like they're smooth, they run great. And everybody over here is scared by like some outdated market research material that says like nobody ever buys N scale. And if Rapido has taught us anything, is that people are more than willing to buy N scale. You just have to let them know that you want to produce these things.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. I
And
talked to the
like,
guys at Rapido at the St. Louis RPM and told them it's like, I want Canadian National Steam in N scale.
yeah,
But the problem that they told me is they said for Canadian National Steam, there is literally no market for it, which surprises me because Rapido is a Canadian company.
yeah.
And that just, like, you're telling me that no one wants to model Canadian National 484s or
I
Bullet
mean,
Nose Bettys or U4Bs or anything like that. It's
it's
like,
one of those things that I've written multiple editorials in like Railroad Craftsman about this, and like one of the big cornerstone one is like the plea for small steam, and I talk about not just an HO. Like I want this in N. I want everything that comes out in HO at least offered as an N pre-order.
yeah.
It's like
Yeah.
let us know. Like if you were to come out with a regular like Baldwin logging 282 and 262 in HO, and you say if we get 500 pre-orders, we'll engineer a sample and produce it in N. And surely enough, I think it would vastly help the N scale market
Oh, yeah.
because
Yeah.
you've got this weird peanut butter but no jelly problem of like you've got a whole generation of N scalers who model hardcore like the diesel era. Like if it's post 19, I would say in most cases post 1960, not even just early transition stuff, but mostly post 1960 stuff.
Yeah.
You know, where the center of N seems to be somewhere between the 70s and the 90s right now.
Yeah.
I'd say more it's between the 1970s and modern day because you
Yeah.
have so many Gevos and SD70s out there. Yeah, I mean, my grandfather, because I inherited a good chunk of his collection was a combination of transition era diesels to 1980s diesels.
Yeah.
He had a few steam locomotives, but they were the generic ones, like the Bachmann B&O 282.
Exactly.
So, but it's like even for like you'd think that at least some of the other excursion steam locomotives would be popular enough, like the Milwaukee Road
Absolutely.
261. The
Yeah,
261
right.
would be perfect for me. I'd be happy to
Yeah.
have just that.
And the BLI 261 and HO sold very well. Like
Yeah.
I think that the one of the things that I've been trying forever to get manufacturers to understand is if it exists as a preserved piece of equipment, be it in a museum or even running, that should be your top priority for a model type
Yeah.
you should
Oh, yeah.
manufacture.
I
And
mean-
I don't mean just like it doesn't always, and I'm not saying like we need another 611 model, not an HO at least.
No.
We don't need another FEF3 model.
We could
What I
use a
mean
new
is
one
all
in-
the stuff that hasn't been produced ever.
Yeah.
Like for the Southern Pacific fans, like a P8 Pacific in like Athearn Genesis quality or BLI quality would be phenomenal. Because
Right.
if you don't model the SP, it is a really nicely sized and scaled 462 that you can kit bash.
Oh yeah.
You know, if you think about like, there's tons of smaller steam that is on tourist lines spread all around the United States. That imagine going to a scenic railway, having a lovely afternoon with your family, and then you walk into the gift shop, and there is the exact locomotive that you just rode behind for sale, and it's ready to run with sound in DCC.
Yeah.
It's a no-brainer.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean,
know,
that's
and
kind
if
of
you-
that's kind of why I got this engine. This is one of the proto 2000s Berkshires.
Berkshire.
It's Paramarquette 1209. It was custom DCC sounded, and it was listed at 200, and I think I got it for a bit cheaper because there were a few
Yeah.
issues wrong with it. And I'm in the process
Nice.
of trying. Basically, the number one problem with it, and I've got it right here. This piece right here is and it broke. Yay.
Oh,
But
that's the
well,
brake shoes, right?
yes, the brake shoes and also the underframe that holds all the drive axles in place.
Of course.
Now, I talked to my buddy over at Whistle Stop Models. He does a whole bunch of 3D resin printing, all the way from like O scale down, all the way down to T scale. Hey, there's the local. Let me see if I can pull up the window real quick and hear it.
Mm-hmm.
Not sure if you guys can hear it.
I think the sound canceling on Discord's a
Yeah,
a little bit too
absolutely.
good.
Bummer. Well, that is
Yeah, we trust you.
that is a Seaboard System MP15T.
Ooh,
Very, very
nice.
rare. Because there were only like
That's cool.
28 of them built, all for Seaboard System. And they actually retired half of them. That one in particular is number 1227. And I'm not saying that because I can see it from the window. I'm saying that because that was the one assigned to Wallingford Yard.
Okay, that makes sense.
But
You
anyway,
simply know.
yes,
Yeah,
I know.
It's the knowledge.
Yes.
Right?
Plus, I live here. I know the schedules. But that cruise.
It is kind of.
Yeah.
It does kind of remind me of like the funny stories of how we, as modelers, kind of by osmosis, learn things.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Not just from like a skills perspective, be it like soldering or bench work or whatever, but just prototype information.
Mhm.
Like one of the things that I've came across in my travels, because I'm hired for a lot of commission work, is that I have to go as deep as they are down the rabbit hole, the what do they call it, like the quote unquote autistic hyperfixation, if you will,
Yeah.
to learn enough fidelity and history about the things that I'm building so that when I build it, it's convincing, be it a layout or a piece of rolling stock or anything. And one of the many rabbit holes that I've been down is like one of my oldest clients models the Yosemite Valley Railroad, and I went from knowing nothing about it other than like seeing a couple of beautiful old pictures of it to basically prototype modeling it
Right.
alongside him. And it was such a great journey because it's like a quintessential California short line. It has all the flavor that you would ever want from a short line, and it connects it right to Yosemite National Park. Like,
Oh yeah.
you can't beat it.
Yep.
But
Yeah.
it was fun to go from zero on that. I have a few friends and clients that I'm building various different things for. Like one of my buddies, Jay, we're building a complete fleet of 1975 era Amtrak equipment, both locomotives, cars. All of it is numbers and photographically matched to real pictures that were taken specifically in 1975. All the interiors of the cars have figures and are properly painted in the genuinely horrifying interior colors of magenta, red, brick red, purple, and orange. And so
That weird
creating
1970s orange.
just like eye-popping amounts of color.
That's
And
the
so-
70s for you.
Oh yeah. They wanted a clean break from like the soft 40s that all the
Yep.
cars they were inheriting were.
Yeah, they wanted
and that's
to.
been such an amazing journey because like I model 1968, Amtrak hasn't happened yet, so I only had like a polite interest in Amtrak my entire life. I enjoy riding it, but it's been so fun to like get the knowledge of like all of this 70s era Amtrak stuff. I was particularly I laughed so hard. We took the train to a prototype modeler's meet, and we printed out pictures of the cars, right? And we put the pictures of the cars next to the cars themselves. And some random crank comes up and says, like, these cars were never this dirty. And I just like, excuse me, sir, could you look at the images down next to each of the cars? And he was like, oh, and then walks away. He's like, they were never dirty, as he mumbles to himself.
I'm just saying, it's right
These
there.
these aren't
And
photoshopped.
especially because like Amtrak washed the sides of their cars. They never washed the roofs of their cars unless it was shopped. So it has brake dust and like residual, not rust because they're all stainless cars, but like all of the like oxide from the rest of the world dumped on the roof. And so it is kind of shocking to see cars that were painted like 2 or 3 years prior, like gleaming sides and just like a deep iron oxide red roof.
Yeah.
Same with the diesels, like freshly painted SDP40S. Nope, they just traveled, a couple thousand miles from Chicago to San Francisco, and they're covered in road grime.
Right.
And it almost feels unrealistic until you look at the images, because we're used to passenger equal clean, and we see that on almost every club layout we've ever been to, right? Like 0% of the passenger equipment on club layouts is weathered.
Yeah, I'm sure our British community would hear that and say, "You obviously have not looked at 1960s steam in England." Oh my gosh, those things were never washed a day during the entire reign of the British Railways. Those engines were never.
Well, and also a world of soot, right?
Oh,
like,
yeah.
They're burning coal in their steam locomotives. They're burning coal for industry. They're burning coal for power generation. They were burning oil and diesel next to, adjacent to the railways. Like, all
They're burning tires for fun.
Yeah.
In 1948, there was that deadly London fog that was like the LA smog debacle on steroids, and people died. And it was just like, yes, because you're burning all that coal.
Yeah.
And then it lands gently on top of everything and weathers it beautifully.
Yep. But anyway, getting back on topic a bit.
It kind of leads us to something fun we could talk about, which is modeling an era that you didn't experience, because all three of us are doing that.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I'm modeling 75 to 85, which is about 25 years before I even was born. You got Miles, you're modeling 68. Sam, you're modeling the 90s. So it's like,
80s to 90s. So yeah.
What kind of draws you guys to do that?
For me, it's because I feel I missed out. I absolutely loved the Rainbow Era of the Grand Trunk. You had the it started off with the mergers in 1980. They bought the Detroit and Toledo Shoreline and the Detroit, Toledo, and Ironton. And they patched locomotives. They had a couple locomotives that were painted in blue but had the predecessors. They had the DTSL locomotives were black with the white noodle. You got, also in 1980, you had the Rock Island GP38s come in, so you had that bankruptcy blue on the Grand Trunk. Unfortunately, they never actually received a large GT noodle. They just received a small one on the side of the cab, but I found one really, really cheap. I bought a lifelike GP38 that was in bankruptcy blue. Ironically, the road number happened to be one of the group that they bought so it works out. So I'm either gonna leave it as is or I'm gonna repaint it, but I'm gonna give it the proper big noodle. You had the Missouri Pacific GP38s that they bought, and for a time those ones ran in just the blue, the Mopac blue. You had obviously the 1984, 85-ish acquisition of the Pittsburgh and Lake Erie GP38s. And those ones lasted well into the 80s in solid black with a white GT noodle. Like, I'm finding pictures. So, like, if I was to find any sort of a solid black engine that would work, I could easily just mark it out and just put a white GT noodle on it, and it would fit.
Nice.
And then, of course, and then of course you have the infamous Yellowbirds, which were the Missouri Pacific Union Pacific SD40-2s.
Yellows.
Yeah, they were in UP. They were delivered in UP yellow, and they slapped a red GT noodle on the side of it. Those ones those were among my favorites. Now, interestingly, also, because I was born in '93, and
Hmm.
so I didn't really start rail fanning until '97 or '98. But I
Nice.
remember one day in particular, we were driving across the tracks to go drop off my dad for college, and my mom would always say, if you see a train and we make it back in time, we'll stop and wait for it. Well,
Oh, that's rather good.
this time we saw one, and so we went and we dropped off. We came back and we looked, and it was still pretty far down the track. And so we're sitting there, and sitting there, and sitting there, and sitting there for a while. And my mom's like, "Where is this train?" So I walk up and I'm like, "It's right there." And eventually it got up to us, and it was four of their brand new XKCS SD40 3s just lugging
Oh,
this train at super slow speeds. And I remember that vividly. That's
oh,
one of
that's
my
great.
Awesome.
core memories. But yeah, for me, it's the idea of, and also because I do the what if era as well, it's
Hmm.
like, it's a combination of, like, I always say, like, model railroads are the perfect time machine. You
Yes,
can go,
absolutely.
because as long as you have the models or the imagination to see something, even though it's not completely accurate,
Hmm.
it can take you back to a time that you did not get to experience or that you want to relive and
Strongly. Yes.
be able to experience it. And then I also call them alternate timeline machines,
Hmm.
because you can pretty much do whatever you want, and it's as if it was real. Like, to me,
Yes.
having I mean, even, and here's another thing. It's like, even if I wasn't modeling it, I can still model the early half of the 1980s with the Milwaukee Road Power, and it still be accurate, because prior to actually making an attempt to buy the Milwaukee Road, the Grand Trunk started funneling traffic through the Milwaukee Road, and there was a lot of Milwaukee Road run through power that ran to not only to Detroit and Port Huron, but also through Duluth up the Duluth, Winnipeg, and Pacific. So
Hmm.
you had that intermingling of Milwaukee Road and Grand Trunk power. So even then, it's like you can still experience, you get to experience the things that didn't get to see, or
Yes.
what could have been.
Hmm.
Yeah, I
So
agree. I think that that's a really good entree into both how I approach prototype modeling and also how I approach prototype freelancing. Because I
right.
chose 68 because it's this weird fulcrum year. For me, it's the final year of Steam in Mexico,
Mm-hmm.
which is butting right up against second generation diesel.
Right.
So
Yep.
Yeah.
the extremely evocative idea of SD45s adjacent to the last year of
Mm-hmm.
Steam is just such an evocative thing
Right.
that gets me inspired every time I think about it.
Oh yeah.
Um, the other thing is like, the mid 60s were the for Mexico the Mexican miracle when they finally, through sound economic policy, managed to get themselves a bright future. Um, at the time, and it was looking up. It was very, very fantastic to be part of that beginning again
Right.
after many years, a messy revolution in the
Hmm.
the late teens, early 20s, and like clawing back through all those years. And they finally hit that golden age. So it's nice
Right.
to be able to capture that. Um, the other thing is like technologically, 68 is a bizarre tipping point in the fact that all of the cars that we recognize, the modern freight car, the roofless box cars, the
Hmm.
high cubes, the covered hoppers, all of the modern rolling stock appeared in
Mm-hmm.
1965, 66. So
Right.
you've got these gleaming new freight cars that we see now extremely weathered and, you know, days from being cut up for scrap, as brand new. And you have the old steam era stuff, which we're used to seeing nice and prim and proper and beautifully painted and nary a rust streak.
Oh yeah.
Just absolutely obliterated.
Yeah.
Um,
And
wooden boxcars shredded, with dry rot, and classic Pullman standard 40 footers, now pitted with rust streaks.
Hmm.
And that's also really fun because it provides this fun challenge of like trying to
Hmm.
capture it accurately.
yeah.
Um,
Fantastic reversal.
Yeah.
yeah, absolutely. And the other thing is like I love modeling road vehicles, and 68 is basically the last golden year for automobile design before various regulations forced various design decisions to go slowly, lurchingly into the malaise era of automobiles in the late 70s. And so it's the last true year of like we can do anything, guys. Let's be crazy.
Right.
And so I love being able to have, a very healthy mix of, cars from the 30s, 40s, 50s,
Hmm.
and up to model year 1969 on the layout, and intermixing them realistically on the layout. Because I
Right.
think a lot of people tend to be, um, I don't want to say lazy is too mean, I suppose, but you have to think about like what the average person was driving at the time. Like
Oh
it
yeah.
isn't all you see a lot of layouts with like festooned with Corvettes everywhere. Like
Yeah.
Mhm.
maybe one guy in town owned, like
Right. But I mean, even
and
in modern day Mexico, you still have horse-drawn and donkey-drawn carts
yep,
all over the place.
exactly.
So you still have a lot of that there as well. So, and I think,
And I love that
yeah.
juxtaposition.
Oh yeah, having like, as I'm thinking about it, like even just the car side, it kind of mirrors what you have with the trains. I mean, you've got these old and rusty and dilapidated 260s and 280s running
Hmm.
alongside SD45s and C430s. And then on the cars, you have these sleek 1950s and 1960s hot rods running
Hmm.
alongside of Model A's and horse-drawn carts.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
it's so
yeah,
good.
it's like Mexico is it's like that perfect little mishmash of everything that like it's almost as if anything goes, but it's still enough that you can still have some sort
You
of
could still
guidelines and
narrow it
barriers.
down a
Yeah,
little bit. Yeah.
exactly. But it still allows for a good amount of freedom of expression.
I've
Yep.
So,
also had so much fun because even though I'm modeling a prototype freelance railroad, the stuff that is real and exists in the world, like specific types of freight cars, locomotives, vehicles, architecture, especially, um, I only work from photographs for those things. If I find a picture in Mexico of a Santa Fe high cube,
hmm,
I go and buy that model.
Hmm.
Um,
right.
if I find a picture from a postcard of like a beautiful old dilapidated 1850s era bar, um,
Hmm,
I'll go find to see if it still exists on Street View, and draw up plans and elevations for it and scratch build it myself. Because one of the
hmm.
fun things about Mexico is the architecture is so vastly different from the United
Oh
States
yeah.
that you can't just use kits right out of the box. Like you
Nope.
can't go down and
No.
get the Woodlands Phoenix ready to run buildings and just plunk it on the layout.
Hmm.
What I found also fun, in addition to scratch building, is that because of some of the European influences in Mexico throughout the 19th and even 18th centuries, um, some of the building kits from Europe can be kit bashed very fascinatingly into Mexican prototype stuff.
Nice.
Um,
Cool.
you haven't seen any of that yet on the layout, but there's going to be a couple of buildings that are German, that are dead ringers for buildings in Guaymas and in
Hmm.
Palme in Mexico.
Nice.
Um,
Nice.
and so that should be really fun for you guys to see that when it comes out.
Hmm.
Um,
I know I
but
enjoyed watching the Crab Shack video.
oh yeah, the crab, yeah, the shrimp restaurant has been so fun today. Uh, it's been such a fun thing because I did not scratch build that building to fit that space.
Hmm.
Weirdly, it was supposed to be somewhere else on the layout. And when I was working on the layout one day, I just put the building aside. Like I needed it out of the way because I was doing something. And then suddenly it was like that video of like the perfect puzzle piece going into
Right.
the hole, and I was like, wait a minute.
Yeah.
And then
And
that whole scene changed.
Oh yeah.
you put down the building, and the angels went, oh.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep. So.
um, to that end, like one of the more fun things I've been having with the scratch building of structures is being able to use Google Street View in Guaymas and Palme, which is in a beautiful coastal region of Sonora in Mexico, right on the Sea of Cortez. And the Google car went up these one-lane dirt escarpments, basically, with the Google car, and you can zoom in and see the houses. And judging by the age of the material and the type of windows that are in there, you can posit what decade this building was constructed.
Right.
And so some of the stuff that's on the hill you've seen the photo curve many times in the photographs.
Yep.
All the buildings up on the hill are directly taken from various buildings in Guaymas.
That's awesome.
And because it was fun, it was really easy. 4 walls of styrene and some tin roofing material, and basically windows from my scrap box, and you got a wide variety of great structures for basically no money.
Right.
And it's something you can take as if you're a North American model or the United States. You can certainly take the exact same approach with some of the anything stucco. Obviously, you can do that, but if you're building 19th century structures, you can take that same kit bash approach or that same scratch build approach that I just highly recommend. It's more fun than trying to force, your brain into saying, okay, this Walters kit is what this structure is going to be.
Mm-hmm. What's especially, even up here in the U.S., you think, oh, it's a Sears house. It has to be. No, Sears houses were kit bashes IRL. Sears houses start as your kit, and you add this room, and you add that bay window, and you add that.
And it wasn't just Sears.
All bespoke.
Right. And it wasn't just Sears. There were other companies that made very similars. Mine, we don't even know exactly who made it because it's so unlike all the others. I have never been able to find one that is exactly the same or similar pattern as this, but we have a theory that it was designed by a company here in Evansville, but it was a kit house. It was one of those
there's a competing kit home company called Aladdin that did a lot of homes that you could buy. And there's also a couple of plan books that you can go on the Internet Archive and dig through, and they were plan books published by like a National Contractors Association, and the plan books go back to the late 19th century and then ended circa 1955. And if you page through it, you'll immediately recognize so many of the houses in those books because they're built all around the country, because this book would come out every year and every contractor would get a copy of it. And if you wanted to, you'd probably do a self-addressed stamped envelope back in the day and get it in the mail. And there are these beautiful color lithograph drawings of these various residential and commercial buildings, and it would have the full floor plan, and it would tell you exactly where you needed to put all the water services and everything. And it's been such an invaluable thing for scratch building and kit bash. Both digitally for assets in computer games and also as model houses for model railroad stuff.
Going back to what I was kind of mentioning, my buddy over at Whistle Stop Models, he's trying to 3D print me that underframe and brake rigging for that Bachmann. And this was the first model of it for a resin kit. Unfortunately, it's a little too long, and the brake rigging doesn't line up properly, so I got to send it back to him. But he also gave me a couple other samples. He gave me this N-scale double wide, which unfortunately had a little bit of 3D printing mistakes on the fluting on the underside, but overall it's a really nice kit, and it came with a variation of little decks and roof antenna and satellites, benches and mailboxes and stuff, all in a little 3D print kit. So yeah, like it's
been really fun to be able to leverage 3D printing for this kind of thing,
Oh yeah.
especially in N scale where you
Yeah.
can just print out the whole building. Like
Oh
it's
yeah.
incredible.
Yeah,
Um,
and he's modeling these things all the way from, like I mentioned, he does have one thing in G scale, which is the TARDIS. He has a whole line of
Nice.
he has a whole line of TARDISes through every scale. He's got, and then he's models primarily, like he'll print from O scale all the way down to T scale. Like he had a set of T scale semi trucks and a little churchyard cemetery and other things in T scale 1 to 450, and I'm like,
wow.
yeah, and it's like the things that resin 3D printing allows. It's like I have planned to get John Chase from Whistle Stop Models onto the podcast and interview with him.
Yeah, that'd be
Um,
a great idea.
yeah, and also the other thing about 3D printing is going back again to that idea of being able to look past something that's not completely accurate. Like, I'm taking
Mhm.
one of those Bachmann Santa Fe 484s and redesigning it to look Grand Trunk Western. Is it going to
Mhm.
be accurate? Absolutely not. But it's close enough that if I repaint it and redecorate it, put the triangle number board on it and everything, I can get it to pass for a
Yes,
Grand Trunk Western
exactly.
484, and for me, that's good enough. But
I mean,
yeah,
one of the cool things you
but
could do with the N scale things is just have a drop boiler cab apparatus that fits perfectly on top of the Bachmann drivetrain,
hmm
and then you'd have your GTW. You could even one of the Streamline if you wanted
oh
to.
yeah, somebody took a Bachmann J class and turned it into a U4B.
Wow,
But
nice.
yeah, but it wasn't the best, but it's what gave me the inspiration to do this. I actually ended up going with the Southern Pacific variation because it had
Ooh.
that graphite smoke box and it had the Vanderbilt tender, which were the two primary things I needed.
Hmm.
But
Yeah, for that first look,
yeah,
right?
yeah. But
Hmm.
going back to Motown or Whistle Stop Models, um, and the 3D printing, the nice thing about it is if you, like, we all know there are the kits. You've got the Walther's kits, which are a dime a dozen, and it's like it's gotten to the point of, oh, you used Walther's kits on your layout. How original. But it's like half of us have forgotten what it was like to. It wasn't just a thing of you make the models to look exactly like the box. You use the models to make your own stuff. It gives you a starting point and
Yes.
then you modify it from there. But the thing with the 3D printing is it opens up a whole new avenue of you can design buildings that even if you don't have the exact dimensions of it, you can have a rough estimate of it and make
Hmm.
it close enough that it does look like what you're trying to model.
Yes,
And and to
I
me
agree with you
being
there.
yeah, and to me being close enough is good enough for me than being accurate just because I know this doesn't exist at all.
Mm.
One thing
So,
I have been seeing in the 3D printing world that has kind of disappointed me is there's a bunch of very prominent 3D printer sellers on eBay, for instance,
hmm
and they sell structures. Um, and they are putting chimneys above windows.
oh
The floor
no.
heights are way out of code. Um, there was one that a client of mine purchased, and it wasn't a cheap kit. It was a big old Victorian house. And the house was 3 or 4 stories tall, if you include the basement and the attic, right?
hmm
There were
Hmm.
no staircases between the floors. Half of the six chimneys went right in front of windows.
oh.
Um, and the it was an Escher-esque nightmare, and it was just like this is really sad because the kit was like $80,
Oh
all 3D
man.
printed. And it also wasn't large enough to be a Victorian home of that era with that style. Also, the floor height, typical Victorian structures and residential are between 12 to 15 feet between
Nope.
Oh
floors.
yeah.
This is like 20 something between
Oh my
floors.
god.
Oh, good
Um,
grief.
You got
And
every
I
floor
thought,
is a double high
and I
floor, a
thought
double
my
half space.
and I thought my 9 foot high ceilings were too tall.
right? And so I've been seeing this more and more often, and I think the problem is I think there's a bunch of people who are grabbing stuff off of like 3D Warehouse or some sort of 3D asset download thing that people had made them off the cuff for as game assets, right? And then they're
Mhm.
making them watertight for 3D printing and then pushing it out as a model.
either
And
that or I believe it was a video that Jimmy at DIY and Digitally either just posted today or yesterday or very recently. He's talking about 3D printing a semi truck, and he
Mhm.
had Google Gemini design him a 3D model
Ugh.
at below 3,000 polygon.
Mhm.
And it's like, it was okay. I look at it, and it's like, yeah, that's a semi truck, but it does make me wonder though, if you were to say, tell Google Gemini, hey, design me a Victorian style house, how does it
There's no
know the
way.
difference between an 8 foot high floor levels versus 20 foot high? How does it know
Right.
the difference?
It doesn't. And
Yeah,
as
exactly.
I'm vehemently against AI. It's the rip-off machine.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and when it comes to stuff like that, like a prompt for a truck trailer, right?
Mm-hmm.
AI has no way of knowing U.S. highway standards to
Right.
create the truck trailer accurately. It'll
Oh yeah.
create a false average of what it
Mm-hmm.
thinks a truck trailer will be. And we
Right.
see this a lot in AI art of train, where
Oh yeah.
the average steam locomotive to an AI is a 286. And it has buffers and Janny couplers, but they're also kind of RA5 couplers. And
Not
it
to
has a
Yeah.
mention it.
European
Yeah.
boiler face, but a 19th century kerosene headlamp and
And a pair of ditch
Like
lights.
a balloon stack.
and a balloon stack.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it has 40 windows in the cab. And it's just like,
Yeah.
and they'll never get there. They'll run out of investment money, and the AI bubble is just about to burst. So I don't think that we'll be seeing it for very long, and um, I will wave to it happily as it disappears because the the false sense of security it gives various people who do not take the time to observe the world
Mm-hmm.
um, is kind of disconcerting, honestly.
Oh yeah.
Like, I don't want to get into a whole rant about it, but like, if we think about it strictly for modeling purposes, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, when we have a major manufacturer, let's say Walthers, for instance, they want to make a truck trailer, right?
Mm-hmm.
They go back and they do research. They find out exactly like what this Freuhoff 30-foot, 35-foot, dry box container trailer looks like.
Mm-hmm.
They'll go, if they can, measure a real prototype, or they'll, use historical photographs, and they'll make a tooling sample, which costs thousands and tens of thousands of dollars to make
Yeah.
a injection molded tooling sample of this
Mm-hmm.
truck trailer, because it's in their best interest to make it as accurate as possible because people will buy it.
Yep.
Um, and I think that with the 3D printing, we're kind of getting off in this left field with inaccurate models being spun as, oh, these are exactly as, and then you
Mm-hmm.
have this dilution of reality away from, uh, a fine scale experience. And like,
Mm-hmm.
it's fine. You can build. I have stuff that's, you know, science fiction items from the Fallout universe on my layout.
Mm-hmm.
I am one to talk about prototypical realism, but there's something about um, there's something to be said about the mundane things being correct.
Oh yeah.
Telegraph poles, truck trailers, structures being to code
Right.
on your layout. That sells a sense of believability. And at the end
Mm-hmm.
of the day, no matter how outlandish your layout is, even if it's just a complete science fiction fun time, right? You want believability to be the cornerstone.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
If you don't have those like basics in there, you can't even rely on suspension of disbelief because there's nothing to land you in the scene.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Right. That's
Um,
why, like, with my Bachmann 484, the drive wheels are larger. Yeah, the dome placement is not accurate. Yes, instead of being a straight line running board, it's got these steps on it. But most 484s were generally about the same size. So you can have slight differences in equipment and how it was designed, but if you repaint it, it can still work out. Just like when I'm trying to think who exactly came out with it. Somebody who was it that made the Chicago Northwestern Streamlined Pacifics?
Yes, BLI did that.
Yeah, Broadway Limited. Yeah, they did those, and then without changing the tooling, they also did the Chicago and Eastern Illinois shovel nose, and they did the Seaboard Airlines shovel nose locomotives. And while those are nowhere accurate because they were all shovel noses, but they were different.
The similarity ends.
But they are able, by saving some money by using the same tooling, they are able to make 3 different but similar models and feed 3 markets at once instead of just one.
Yes.
Which would be a very niche market to begin with. Which I appreciate that. I mean, Concord did the same back in the in the 90s. They had a Dreyfus Hudson model, and they redesigned it so they were able to make the Santa Fe Blue Goose out of it. They changed it out for a shovel nose and made the Burlington Zephyr scheme and a couple other things just from this one shell design alone. And to me, that was very unique and helpful. And even the Bachmann ones. Like, this is a Santa Fe, but by just changing out the tender and changing the paint scheme, they had, outside of just Santa Fe, they had Southern Pacific, they had Great Northern, they had Rock Island, and a couple others. And they were
also did like UP and the Q.
I
think,
maybe.
Well.
I don't think they had a UP one, but I think yes, they had the Burlington one. Yes, for sure.
It's the Overland.
Oh,
Express,
that one. The Niagara, the Union Pacific Niagara.
Selker kid.
I love that one. I find it so funny, but yeah, you're able to maximize what you have while still minimizing your production costs. And that's where a lot of them are. It's like, if you can, that's why modeling the diesels is so easy. And it's also why, like I mentioned earlier, 1/3 of all the steam locomotives are the USRAs. Because all the USRA steam locomotives were exactly the same. They were a dime a dozen, and they were on every railroad. So it makes sense to make the stuff that's easier to be the same or be similar enough, but also different. So
there's been a project I've been running around in the background with of plumbing the 3 major steam locomotive manufacturers to see where there are similar or nearly identical locomotives. In particular, this started twofold. There's 2 locomotives that absolutely positively should be made to, either Athearn Genesis or BLI quality or Rapido quality, because they were owned by multiple railroads. The Florida East Coast 482s. Because when Flagler's Folly got destroyed by the hurricane, they sold them off, and they ended up on the Western Pacific, and they ended up on the NDM, and they ended up somewhere else. I forget where, but multiple roads. So you've got a specific locomotive, and you have at least 4 road names. That's fantastic. A second one is the what do they call it? The War Emergency 484.
Oh yes, they were the ones that were off of the Delaware and Hudson and the Rock. I believe the Rock Island and somebody else.
St. Louis.
Yes.
The NDM QR1s are also identical.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and so the cool thing about that is like virtually everything except for very small aesthetic differences. Like the NC and STL 484 has a nose cone.
Oh, yeah.
That's an easy one part replacement.
Oh, yeah.
With the NDM QR1s, they have a slightly different tender, but it's like negligible.
Right.
And the SPGS8s,
Oh, yeah.
the final cotton belt 484s are similar. They're very close.
Right, yeah.
And I think there's an immense business opportunity for those two.
Oh, yeah.
Let alone other smaller steam.
Yeah. Well, also
I talked about.
Yeah. Well, also along the GS8, they've kind of done it with the GS4s and 6s, where they made the Western Pacific GS64s because they were literally the same nose cone, except they had the elephant wings.
Yes.
But also, the Central of Georgia received their Big Apples. They were exactly the same, but they were slightly different. I think you could probably get the GS1, which was the unstreamlined Southern Pacific version. You could get the Big Apples, and you're still using the exact same underframe for the
chassis.
GS4s. The chassis for the GS4s. And you can get several of those locomotives. So yeah, it's an unfortunate thing of like, it's where we'll get something different, but it'll also kind of be the same. But as long as and at the same time, it's like, I understand, like, the common stuff and the stuff that's easier to make and will sell a dime a dozen, I can understand that. Those will be your bread and butter every day, but you can't just forget about all the other things that we'd want to see in the hobby.
Yeah, and that's one of the things, kind of jumping away from the steam era a little bit, that's one of the things that I've really appreciated about scale trains is, they make their GEVOs, they make their SD40-2s to make their money, but then they make their SDL39s, they make their big blows, they make those
the GP30
prototypes that make the people who want that model so happy.
I mean, heck, they included the GP30B in their run of the GP30s.
Yeah.
That was that was a genius PR move. Like, it's going to need a few extra pieces of tooling, but we'll have something that nobody else has. And it's
and
really
unique. That was
unique.
torturous to get running well in brass, because I think the last time they did them was OMI GP30Bs from like the 80s, which are decent. But like at the end of the day, you're still wrangling with a brass engine that's older than we are.
Oh yeah. I have an appreciation for brass.
I do too. I have a very complex relationship with brass, and it basically boils down to never buy a common locomotive from brass. Like if it exists as a plastic model, buy the plastic model or the BLI version. Like never buy a brass GP40. There's no reason.
Well, I have a reason to buy a brass model in N scale. I've seen it online and I haven't bought it yet because it's a little out of my price range right now, but somebody made in N scale the GP60 demonstrator with the aero cab. Now Athearn has now Athearn has made the demonstrators, but they were all with the standard cab. They never had the streamlined aero cab, and I absolutely loved the aero cab. I thought that was one of the coolest designs ever. But then again, that's just me being a sucker for anything that's unique or different. But the brass people, they knew what they were doing. They knew that these are custom, but even then, you can only make so many of those. That's why some of them there's only I think there's only 75 of the Grand Trunk Western J3As available in HO scale. And my buddy had at one point owned one of those, and it was a painted version of the locomotive that his dad almost bought.
Yeah, and one of the things that I've been hesitant with, the bulk of brass collection is traction, because you can't get any, and steam. I have a very narrow collection of other things that are not traction or steam and brass, but basically If it's impossible to find in plastic, I get it in brass, and I rough it out, trying to repower it and stuff DCC in it, and try and paint it, and all of that sort of thing. I used to offer it as a commission service, but stopped because the last commission, even though the guy was happy to pay for 79 hours of labor to get it from zero to done, like, oh my God, I don't think I could do it anymore. I've got, and so now I just do it for myself when it comes to brass, because each and every one, just like a steam locomotive, the model itself is unique between the other 100 or 200 or 300 that were produced, because they're handcrafted. They're made by a highly skilled craftsman in Japan or Korea or elsewhere, and they're works of art. And it's really tough to appreciate them because you think of them as a commercial product, right? You're buying it, it comes in a box. It's not, you don't know the artist's name, and in fact, it probably takes over a dozen people from front to back to make each model. And we never think about that. We just think, oh, expensive, shiny train, that doesn't run well most of the time. And having to deal with that. And there's a reason why eBay is littered with as many disassembled brass locomotives as there are assembled brass locomotives. And when it comes down to it, like treating it and celebrating it as a piece of art and being able to bring it back to life from the purgatory of either being a shelf queen for decades or trapped in a box for decades, or somebody tried to use a rattle can in 1978 to spray paint it black. Or worse, sometimes you encounter beautiful custom brass out there, and it's a sight to behold.
Right.
But yeah, at the end of the day, like, woof, unless you really need it as like the keystone, like the halo of your model railroad concept. I know a lot of younger modelers who come to me out of the blue because I posted about how to repair brass stuff, and like a lot of it is really tough because people come to me with like legitimately broken model where no replacement parts exist for like crank pins and valve gear assemblies, and it got dropped, so a little bit the frame is a little bit out of kilter, and it's like, I'm sorry, but there's really nothing you can do unless you become a master machinist over 20 years or something. Like, and it's tragic in many ways because I don't want to ever crush anybody's dream. Like, you find that beautiful model, because I've gone through it myself like 24 times with brass. It's like, I find this steam locomotive for the perfect price, and I bring it home, and it runs like a coffee grinder. And it only has two speed settings, dead and 712 miles an hour. And it's just like, okay, what do I do now? And like, I have an entire bank box I bought from an old hobby shop of Northwest Shortline repowering parts. Your drive shafts, your flywheels, your gears, and all that. And like, dipping into it is a wonderful experience, but knowing with the trepidation that like, this is going to be a multi-year project if I even look at this locomotive and begin to start with.
Right. Yeah.
Well,
we are already at 1 hour 16 minutes in our recording. Right. we popcorned around a little bit, or sidetracked a bit in this. Like, there was
really fun.
But there was more I wanted to talk about. I wanted to talk about you making a career out of model railroads and everything, and and stuff like that, but unfortunately we've kind of run out of time, and I blame myself partly for that. But
we could run. I could do 15 more minutes, and then we could edit it down to an hour. I'm fine to run a little long if you want to do that.
Well, usually we do these as uncut episodes, so. Yeah, I mean, you're always welcome back for a part 2.
Just gonna say.
Yeah, I mean, we've still got to fill out another, I believe, 4 episodes for the rest of the year, and then we've got all of 2026 to look forward to. So.
Yeah, if you've got some questions written down or something, I'll give them some thought, and I'd be happy to be back. That'd be really fun.
Yeah, we definitely want you back. And
you're a little bit of prep work.
And on top of that, you're a member of the community now, so we get to see all the work that you're getting to do here. So exactly. for those that are listening online, do you want to tell us where we can find you and everything?
Where do we find Miles?
Yeah.
You can find me at interurbanera.com or on YouTube /Interurban Era, or you can find me on Patreon, where I regularly write articles that only the paid people can see at patreon.com/Interurban Era.
And then
I can vouch that those articles are excellent.
All right, and I believe you mentioned something about you also write editorials for magazines.
Yeah, I regularly write for Railroad Model Craftsman, both as for kit bashing articles, modeling, structure stuff, and editorials.
Okay.
So you can find me somewhat regularly in RMC.
Alrighty then. And then of course you can find Dennis on YouTube at N-Scale Train Boy, and you can find us. Obviously, you're probably watching this on YouTube or listening to it somewhere. We stream everywhere. I believe we actually got the Apple worked around. I think Podbean actually uploaded it straight to Apple. So
nice.
That was easy to get around, but now we just have to shuffle around the other social medias and get them all into line. But yeah, and check us out on our Discord as well, Model Train People. We're always willing to accept new members. And yeah, so Miles, thank you so much for coming on.
Coming on and
of course
sharing your little part of the hobby.
Yep. So, and
absolutely.
So,
thanks, guys.
Yep, no problem. And we will see you all in the next episode. Take care.
Thanks for watching.